seated for just a sec. We'll have another song, but some of you guys may or may not be familiar with author N.B. Weston. Michelle has been a friend of ours for several years now. Check out her books. We've got the two that have been released at our table so far, and she's a guest at the con this year. That's not why she's here this morning, not to promote herself, but to promote God and tell a story. So,
wow, that was awesome. I'm like all emotional now to have to tell a story, so that's really difficult. I am a storyteller at heart. That's kind of what we authors do. It's not necessarily writing as much as it is storytelling and telling people, just getting people emotionally involved. So I figured what I'm going to do is just tell you a little story about a little boy named Joshua. And Joshua's a little kid, and he lives with his mom. And one day, Joshua heard that the teacher was coming to town. And he was so excited because he had heard about this teacher. And he wanted to hear this teacher. He was so excited, but the problem was the teacher wasn't coming into the middle of town. There were too many people who wanted to see him. The teacher was going to go out of town, in the outskirts. So if this little boy, Joshua, wanted to go see the teacher, he was going to have to go for all day. And his mom had to work, so he'd have to go by himself. So he talked to his mom about it. She really wanted him to go see the teacher, so she packed him a little bag of fish and chips. She gave it to him, and he went out to see the teacher. So he traveled, and he went out with all these people, and when he got there, when he got to the outskirts of town, they were on top of this mountain, and he started looking around, and he could not believe how many people were there. It was amazing. There were at least 5,000 men, and who knows how many women and children, because they were never counted. And this boy, he's just looking, and he was just amazed at how many people wanted to hear the teacher just like he did. So he sat there, and he starts listening. The teacher comes, and he starts teaching. And the things that came out of this teacher's mouth were so amazing. And the boy was just enraptured by what he was hearing. Well, the teacher kept talking, and it kept getting later, and later, and later. And soon the sun, which was over here, was all the way in the top of the sky, and it was hot. And the boy looked around, and he started to realize that people were getting a little bit restless. They were looking a little hungry. A couple people were getting a little faint. Some were getting slightly dizzy. And the boy noticed the teacher saw that too. And he saw on the teacher's face, he could see that the teacher was kind of worried about these people. They needed food. So the boy watched the teacher. He calls 12 men over to him, and they all start talking, and they're shaking their heads. And the teacher's motioning for them to go out in the crowd. So these 12 men, they start going out in the crowd, and they start asking, does anyone have any food? And the boy, he's got these fish and chips. Well, they're really good. He didn't want to give away his fish and chips, so he's kind of holding them behind him, just, don't take my fish and chips. I got my vinegar. It's going to be good stuff. I don't want to give this stuff up. But he's hungry, and he can see all these other people are hungry, but he's hungry too. And his mom worked hard to give him his fish and chips. So he's holding his bag behind his back, and he's just looking around. But he starts to realize, the teacher really needs some food for these people. And he's going, but all I've got is one bag. What good is one measly bag of fish and chips going to do? So he's just thinking about it. What do I do? And he just decides, what? At least if I give this bag up, the teacher might have some food, and he can keep teaching because he really wanted to hear the teaching. So he finds one of those 12 men. He hands him the bag and says, here, take this. Well, that's when the most amazing thing happens. The man goes up to the teacher. The teacher holds this little tiny bag of fish and chips. He thanks God for it. And little Joshua's sitting there going, I gave him this little amount of food, and he's thanking God? He needs this much food. Why is he thanking God for this much food? Didn't make any sense to him. As they're sitting there, they're watching this teacher. He thanks God for the food. And then, y'all know what happens next. He starts breaking the fish and chips, and he calls and asks for some baskets. The little boy's going, okay, now I'm really confused. Hold on. One little bag of fish and chips. Why do we need baskets? This doesn't make sense to me. The teacher starts breaking the bread, breaking it. He keeps going. He keeps going. He keeps going. He keeps filling baskets. And as he's filling baskets, the 12 men come. They grab the baskets. They keep taking it out to more people. And suddenly, the boy realizes all the people are getting fed. every single person got fed, and he's just sitting there, he's watching, and he even got fed. He had 2 times the amount of fish and chips he normally would have had. But as he's watching it, he realized all the 12 men, they come back, they've got 12 baskets left over, and everyone was full. And here's the thing, the little boy, he just sat there and he thought, he never realized that those 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish, could feed that many people. All he had to do was give it to the teacher. I hope that speaks to all of you.